Blake Snell. Wanted to ask you guys about Snell because I actually took him 47th overall as the SP12, just ahead of Framber Valdez, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Logan Webb.
I was surprised to see that, Frank.
I was surprised myself that I actually did it. You know what? I wanted to take hitters. I wanted to take more hitters early on. I started with 3 hitters. I wanted to keep doing that. When it got to the 4-5 turn, I just didn't really love the hitters that were there. You took Corey Seager in the 5th. I thought about that, but I didn't want to clog up my utility spot. So I was like,
that's what I ended up doing. Yeah, Seager, my second shortstop in round 5.
But yeah, you guys tell me, like, Blake Snell, 4th round pick, SP12 in a points league. Is that too early? It might be.
Look, I rank him even slightly higher than that, just among starting pitchers. But I don't want to draft my 12th, or I think in my case, 10th starting pitcher that early in a head-to-head points league. So I thought it was going to go like you guys have been saying when I tell you where I rank Blake Snell. Oh, you're going to get so much Blake Snell this year. And I got him where I took him in the Roto League in what round?
Chris tells you that. I don't tell you. Okay. I kind of like Blake Snell too. So.
What round did I take him in the Roto League? 7 or something like that?
I think it was 6 or 7. Yeah.
And so then he goes in round 4 here. So I never had a chance at him. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just based on those conversations we'd been having on the podcast, I was surprised you took him there. Chris made a good point earlier that volume is the big concern for Snell too. So I think if you're going to go the extra mile for him, it makes more sense in Roto. And so I don't know. I was surprised by the pick, Frank.
Yeah, so like
a little surprised myself.
Pablo Lopez has had a couple of decent seasons, but nothing spectacular. Certainly not on the level of like Blake Snell at his best. His last 2 seasons in this format, and he went a couple spots ahead of Blake Snell. His last 2 seasons in this format, 451 points last year, 484 the year before. Blake Snell's been in the majors for 9 years. One of them was his rookie year. Let's say 8. Let's call it 8 seasons. He's beat that twice. And it was the 2 years he won Cy Young. Like the problem with Blake Snell is he is far and away the least efficient good pitcher in baseball. Great pitcher in baseball, let's say. He's reached 130 innings twice in a season. So like the upside for Blake Snell is he can get to that 500 point mark. He did that in 2023. The problem is that's the absolute ceiling for Blake Snell. And you got to think there's going to be a lot of Los Angeles.
Say that again because your mic cut out for a second.
You got to think there's going to be a lot of 6-man rotation in LA. He never averages 6 innings per start. I literally think he has never averaged 6 innings per start. And so I can squint and see the case that Scott is making for Blake Snell in a Roto league. I think it's too early in a points league.
Yeah, that's probably. I just want to point out
pretty close to his ceiling in a points league.
Let me explain then why I have Snell ranked as high as I do, even in points leagues, because particularly since they're a shallower format, particularly since you're going to be supplementing your rotation off the waiver wire a lot, at least the way I play, that's the case. It matters a lot less to me total number of points than what you can average per start. How impactful you can be during those stretches where I am absolutely going to start you. And Blake Snell, he had the groin injuries early on. He was doing his normal early season struggle thing through June, either on the IL or struggling. From July on, when he became good Blake Snell, 20.64 points per start, which was more than Tarek Skubal averaged on the year. So he was carrying your team, carrying your pitching staff for those final 3 months.
Right. But like 2023, I think maybe you disagree, but I think 2023 is like pretty close to like the best case scenario you could expect for Blake Snell for a full season.
Well, I was just doing 2024 though.
Right. No, but you were arbitrary endpointing it. I'm talking about a whole season. Because like a 20 points per game is like a peak Justin Verlander type season.
Yeah. And I'm saying that's how good Blake Snell is, but that's not when he becomes good Blake Snell.
Blake Snell's never done that for a full season.
No, but we're not asking.
Even like maybe back in 2018, but that's a whole different landscape ago. 2023, he averaged 15.9 points per game, which is really good. But it was like a rounding error better than Zach Eflin and Chris Bassett that year. And this is 2.25 ERA, 12, 13 K per nine, Cy Young winning Blake Snell. You know, that's my thing. Like, I get that, like, when he's locked in, he's as locked in as anyone. It's just he doesn't have the ability to rack up the volume over the course of the season the way,
right?
Even like a Zach Gallen.
So I think I'd be more hesitant, like if we were playing like in a deep 20 team head-to-head points league. I think where it's like, okay, these pitchers I'm drafting, I'm going to have to ride them through thick and thin. I'd be less inclined to pursue Blake Snell in that scenario. But yeah, we know the pattern Snell follows every year, and those of us who drafted him last year were able to lean on that and bench him until we knew when to start him, and it worked out perfectly. And I think we can keep applying that strategy to him going forward.
All right, we've got to move on.
I can just bench him is not a great argument for a guy being a top 12 starter, though.
We've got to move on. I just want to say, Chris, you compared him to Pablo Lopez. If you just look at the full season last year, Blake Snell averaged more fantasy points per game than Pablo Lopez.
Sure.
And to Scott's point, I was going to make the same one. If he does get hurt, you can, there's a better waiver wire in a league this shallow, so I guess you could replace him. But yeah, it's probably a little bit too early. I didn't love the pick at the time, but there was just nobody I really loved at that 4-5 turn. So I guess that's my excuse for drafting Blake Snell. Wanted to mention Roki Sasaki. He went 106th overall, right between Sonny Gray and Carlos Rodon. How does that sound as a landing spot for Roki Sasaki?
He'll never go that late again.
Yeah, his NFBC ADP in just December is 73.1.
Yeah, I think it's SP21. I don't know. Like, we're so afraid of injuries unless you get hurt in the minors or in this case in Japan, and then we're like, we don't know about injuries. Injuries don't matter. But Roki Sasaki has never pitched more than 130 innings in a season. He has made 44 starts, I think, combined over the past 2 seasons. He's dealt with arm, oblique, and elbow injuries over the past 2 seasons and has thrown like 91 and 111 innings. And he's almost certainly going to be pitching every 6th day rather than every 5th day. So there'll be no 2-start weeks. I think he's being overdrafted anyway. But he's not going to be a target in a head-to-head points league for me.